It is Friday, everyone. Welcome to Try Jesus Auburn live on Friday, as usual. We're glad you're spending your Friday evening with me. It's warm, finally, thankfully. So happy that warmer weather is here. It was a bit rainy today, but we'll still take it because it was warm. And hope it was warm where you are. And as we always say, even if you had a bad week, you are in the right place. Thank you for spending your Friday evening with me. And it's not just me again tonight. Back by popular demand. Da 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 da. Ainsley is back. She's here. Hello, welcome,
Hello,
Ainsley.
thank you.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. I won't tell everyone that you may or may not be wearing sweatpants.
Don't stand up.
Don't stand up. No, no. But people see us from the. I remember. People don't know this, but this is not the first time you've done live sessions
It's
with
true.
me.
It's true.
When we were in Pennsylvania, we did a whole evangelistic series, I
Bible
believe,
trivia
Daniel and
too.
Revelation and Bible trivia.
Uh-huh.
And you were my co-host for
Mhm.
that.
Yep.
Yeah. So you're an old veteran here
Yep.
when it comes to streaming. So glad you're back.
Glad to be back.
The live session that you were on before is the most watched of all of our live sessions.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I don't know if I take that as an insult or you should take that as a compliment or both or what, but that's the way that it is.
That's the
So
way it is.
yeah, I don't know what it is. I guess you're just cooler than me, but thank you for being brave enough to be here and be somewhat embarrassed by your father at times
Yep.
and
Hey,
things. Yeah.
comes with the territory.
Yes. And looking forward to Adele coming home, or my other daughter. She'll be coming home from college in what, a week or so?
7 days, I
A
think.
week. That would be a week.
Yep. Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. 7 days. Yeah, a week. So looking forward to that. And a lot of things coming up to be excited about. And again, happy Friday, everybody. And just wanted to remind you all, make sure that you follow, like, subscribe to the channel, not only for your benefit, but for the benefit of others, because the Facebook and YouTube algorithms um, love it when there's more subscribers and people watch and people comment. So even you just saying hi on the chat tonight will help this be seen by more people in your area and mine. So the more interaction these posts get, even if a podcast episode is not your favorite, if you just share it or like it or comment on it, it helps more people see it. Because when Facebook and YouTube see that people are interacting with a post, it shows it to more people. It gives the people what they want. And so, just like me having Ainsley back, help us give the people what they need by sharing the episodes, liking, and subscribing to the channel. We have moved to a little bit different paradigm where we had some advertising going on and some of that funding isn't coming through anymore. So we are relying on you to like, share, subscribe. I will also say this as well. Our goal on the podcast would be to have $1,000 per month, not to pay me. I don't save any of it. I don't keep any of it, Ainsley. I know you'd want me to because I can buy you things, but no. Um, I wouldn't keep any of that. But what we would do is put that all into marketing for the podcast. So many people, I'll say this, a lot of people found this podcast through our Facebook ads and our YouTube ads. And that's because of our, excuse me, our marketing that we had with a friend of mine named Cal. He was making ads and reels and pushing the ads through Facebook and YouTube, and did a wonderful job. We gained a lot of subscribers. We've had people visit our in-person events and things like that because of the advertising and the marketing that we did. So if the Lord put it on your heart to help out the podcast, even if we don't get up to $1,000 a month budget, we can put that directly into marketing and more people can try Jesus with us. Have you enjoyed the podcast, Ainsley?
Yes, I have. Yep.
You have, huh? You're required to say that, aren't you?
I mean, yeah, pretty much.
How many of you actually watched?
A couple, a few.
That's putting you
a decent amount.
putting you on the spot. Oh, anyway, I won't do that anymore. I've embarrassed you enough for one night. But anyway, welcome everybody. We have some prayer requests and answers that have come through. If some of you have been praying for Ryan and Lily's baby boy, and he came home today. I talked with Ryan on the phone, and we're so excited and blessed. Little guy was in the hospital there for a little bit longer with a couple complications, but he has the clean bill of health for the most part, and he is home now with mom and dad and his two big brothers. I wonder
Amen.
what that's like with those two.
Gotta be interesting for
Three
sure.
cute little
Yeah.
guys, but I wonder if they're enjoying being big brothers now.
Yeah.
We'll have to find out about
Yeah.
that one. Francis, our friend Francis, he went out to Vermont for a funeral. He was praying about traveling mercies and getting there and being able to spend time with the family of his former pastor. And so he made it, and I believe he's back now. So we're praising God for that. And the Easter play, your Easter play
Yes,
went
passion
well.
play.
Passion play, yeah.
Yep.
And you were a little unsure how that was going to go there for a while.
Oh, it was a bit of a. It was kind of a little bit last minute, and
Last minute because there was new staff members
yes,
this
yeah,
year.
there was new people organizing it and putting it all together, but we all were able to pull it together in the end, and I was part of props, so running here, there, and everywhere. And the second night, we had a bit of a props malfunction with the tombstone.
Oh, that's right.
It
Yeah.
was rolled and unrolled when it wasn't supposed to be, and I don't know if people in the crowd noticed it as much, but
I did.
yeah,
I was like,
well,
why is the stone back
yeah.
over the tomb? Jesus is risen. He's not here.
Yeah,
Somebody rolled the stone back.
it was a
It was okay. Most
malfunction,
people
yeah,
probably didn't notice.
hopefully.
Yeah, but there was new staff this year, and
Yeah.
they'd never seen it before,
Mhm.
and some new parts to the play that people weren't
New scenes
used
and
to, some
everything.
new
Yeah.
scenes, and so up until like even Friday, there was a lot of question about how this was going to go.
Yeah.
But you guys pulled it off, and it
Yep.
was a blessing as
Mhm.
usual. And to the staff there, congratulations, you pulled it off again. So just wanted to mention, you can still join our prayer challenge. And what we're telling people to do is twice a day, morning and evening, talk to God. And no matter how this podcast or this challenge finds you, if you're mad at God, yell at him twice a day. If you're sad, cry. If you're happy, rejoice. We are all about trying Jesus in our lives, and I can think of no better way than to try Jesus in our lives is to speak to him intentionally twice a day. And it's interesting. We can so often get used to the rat race of our lives and become busy and forget to talk to God. And sometimes we need to set an alarm.
Mhm.
Ainsley, sometimes we need to say, you know what, I need to set an alarm for myself to pray. And so maybe that's part of your Try Jesus challenge. When you go to the website and you sign up, I will respond and encourage you at least once a week. We want to hear how God's answering prayers. That's how you hear those prayer requests every week, is people have written in, hey, this happened. We're praising God for this. This was an answered prayer in my life this week. So write in those answered prayers. We want to hear them, or those prayer requests that you might have. So again, as you're signing in, as you're saying hello, make sure you comment in the comment box. Even if you say hi, that will tell Facebook and YouTube, send this to other people. So want to hear those questions, comments, and hellos even, because we want to see who's watching. I know we have friends and family members that are watching. So let's get to our first question for the night for our Q&A. Tom, this actually came up in our Tuesday night Bible study. For those of you that don't know, we meet every Tuesday night at 6 o'clock at the library here in Auburn. And we find a table, and it's a small group of us, and we have a good time. And there's always good discussion, good questions. Sometimes we'll just take a chapter of the Bible and read through it and interpret it and understand the historical significance and what the Bible's teaching us. We always have a good time. So email me, tryjesusauburn@gmail.com. If you want to be part of the Bible study, we would love to have you. But out of the Bible study this week came a really interesting question, Ainsley, that I had to do some research on, actually. I don't, believe it or not, I don't know everything. You're supposed to say, yeah, you do, Dad. You know everything.
You
Yeah,
do.
thank
You
you.
know
Thank you.
everything.
That's
Yeah.
right. I do. No, I don't know everything. And the question came from Tom. What are the earliest accounts of the Christian church outside of Christians as sources? So basically, his question was, um, I obviously the Bible talks about early Christians. There's Christian tradition, there's church fathers, but are there any non-Christians that started writing right away about Christians? Because that would speak more to the validity and the truth of the resurrection
Mm.
if there was people that weren't believers that wrote about Christians and martyrs and the apostles and things like that. So I got looking into history, and this is what I found. So Tacitus, he was a historian and a writer in 116 AD. So this was just shortly after the last apostle, John, died.
Mhm.
So almost immediately in the same time period. He was a Roman historian writing in his annals around 116 AD. Tacitus mentions Nero's persecution of Christians after the Great Fire of Rome in 64 AD. Have you ever learned about Nero at all?
A little bit. I don't know if we did this year, but that's definitely something that we've gone over in history class. Kind of a bit of a big.
Nero is basically, he was insane.
Yeah, yeah.
He was insane. There's records of him actually believing that there was evil in the ocean.
Oh,
So he would go out with a sword and stab the waves and fight the waves and
well,
things. And he was crazy. And Rome burnt during his reign.
right.
And some people believe that he blamed Christians. And after that, he tortured and fed them to the lions
Hmm.
and sacrificed them on crosses. I mean, it was really bad under Nero. So Tacitus speaks of this relationship between the Christians and Nero
Mm.
in 116 AD. So he's talking about this movement of Christians. He refers to Christus, from whom the name Christian originated. So it's interesting, the name Christian didn't come from Christians.
Right.
The name Christian came from a non-Christian, a historian named Tacitus.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Tacitus.
That's interesting.
Say Tacitus.
Tacitus. Tacitus.
Ainsley and I have this thing where we love weird words. Tacitus is fun to say. But he refers to Christus, and so we get the name Christian from, and notes that Jesus was executed under Pontius Pilate during the reign of Tiberius. So he, a non-Christian, testifies to things that the Bible said. And also he talks about Christians after the resurrection of Jesus. So they existed and they were around after Jesus' resurrection, which, if people have watched the podcast episodes about the resurrection, I've talked about the fact that the Christian church exists at all is proof that Jesus rose.
Mhm.
Because number one, none of the Jews were expecting Jesus to rise. Number two, the apostles were all terrified for their lives and they were in hiding. And so they would not have made it up. They were afraid that the Romans were going to catch them and crucify them too. And so they would not have made up that Jesus rose. They saw him and they went to terrible deaths. They became martyred because, in fact, they had seen Jesus alive.
Mhm.
So powerful stuff. It's amazing if you read those stories of the apostles and what they went through. So Josephus was a Jewish historian writing in his book Antiquities, his work Antiquities of the Jews around 93 AD. So this was actually still during John's life, the disciple John. He was on what island? Do you remember?
Oh my goodness. You always do this to me.
Where did he write Revelation?
Um,
Starts with a P.
no, it's on the tip of my tongue.
Patmos. The island of Patmos. There will be a test later. More so than I just gave you. But yeah, the island of Patmos, John wrote that, and they think that he actually wrote that somewhere around 95.
Oh, okay.
So he was an old guy there on Patmos. And so Josephus is writing about Christians during the time of John.
Mhm.
So people have had this idea, the legend of Jesus grew after his death. So his disciples didn't believe those things about him. They made it up and the legend grew as he went along. Well, Josephus, a Jew, not a Christian, came along writing of Jesus in 93 AD.
Mm.
So his work, the Testimonium Flavanum, fancy, passage is debated. So that's his section specifically talking about Christians, and it's really interesting. Anytime you get some really solid historical evidence for something in the Bible, people always say, "Oh, that really wasn't written by the person that that we think it was, or that said that it was." So they're saying, "Oh, this wasn't really written by Josephus. Christians came along and put this in later." That's what they're saying. A lot of scholars don't believe that. Some do. However, most scholars agree Josephus did mention Jesus, noting he was a wise man and a teacher with many followers, and that he was crucified under Pilate, and later talks about the followers of Jesus. Another guy by the name of Pliny the Younger. Most people, if you have heard of Pliny, you've heard of Pliny the Elder. So this is Pliny the Younger, his son. And in 112 AD, again, right after the life of the apostles, a Roman governor in Asia Minor, Pliny the Younger, wrote to Emperor Trajan around 112 AD for advice on dealing with Christians. So again, not the legend of the resurrection growing afterward. These are people that would have been alive for the resurrection of Jesus, now followers of Jesus. It would have been illegal for them to be followers of Jesus. They would have worried about their lives. Here is the Emperor Trajan writing, Pliny the Younger wrote to Emperor Trajan about this movement of Christians. So it's not something that grew. It happened during the same time. He described their worship of Christ as a god. So again, this legend isn't growing about him becoming a god later. This was during the same time. People were worshiping Jesus as God, and their ethical practices, including their oath to abstain from various immoral actions. So, Christian way of life, Christian view of the resurrection immediately. Marabar Serapion. Marabar Serapion was a Syrian philosopher who wrote a letter to his son after 73 AD. So this is 20 years before John died on Patmos. And he compares Jesus' death to the unjust treatment of Socrates, Pythagoras, and referring to Jesus as a wise king.
Wow.
So there you go. There is the evidence, Tom, for your question. What are the earliest accounts of the Christian church outside of Christians as sources? None of those men that we referred to were Christians or followers of Jesus. Historians, politicians, not Christians. And it was during the time of Jesus, immediately referring to him as that they worshiped him as God. So there it is. There you go, Tom. Make sure you send in your questions and your comments. It makes our Friday night live sessions better, more interesting, and you're more apt to watch. If you submit,
Because it's your
excuse me, so
question.
if you submit questions, yeah, it's your question, right?
Yep.
So please continue to send those in. Even if it's not something that's on our podcast episode, what I love to do is put out a podcast on Sunday, let you watch it throughout the week and send in your questions. That works really great. But if you have a Bible question that comes up during the week, by all means, send it in. We'd love to hear it and answer it here on the live session. So this is one that's going to open a can of worms, Ainsley.
Okay.
So this comes from a lady named Sharon, and a skeptic, not a believer. And she echoes something that you hear a lot from people that don't believe in Jesus. What does a resurrection even make a difference? What does it even mean in 2025? Other than just, nice thoughts or fables or stories for people to believe in, what practical difference does this make? So I wanted to answer that question by reading John chapter 15. Can you see that, to read that,
Yes.
Ainsley?
John 15:4 Abide in me and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. From apart from me you can do nothing.
All right. So, like we talked about in one of those historians in Rome, the Christians had a different way of living.
Mhm.
They had a different way of thinking. And what Jesus says there in John chapter 15 is that when we are connected to him, our lives change. Things are different. Our hearts change, our mindset changes, the way we think. And Jesus says in a couple chapters, or actually in John 15 and another chapter, you'll know people are my disciples because they love one another.
Right.
So true Christian love, selfless love, is something that comes from God. And I even think that that selfless love that people show each other, even if they're not Christians, that comes from God too.
Mhm.
Because all good things come from God, whether people are Christians or not. That's God working through them, whether they acknowledge it or not. And so, selfless love, goodness, truth, mercy. What else comes from God in this world, would you say, that you can think of?
I mean, just neighborliness and kindness and caring and pretty much everything that's good.
Pretty much everything that's
And
good
the
in the
fruits of
world,
the
right?
spirit, love,
Yeah,
joy, peace, patience,
right.
all that stuff.
So if Jesus is risen, the Bible tells us that he'd send forth his spirit and he'd start working in the lives of humanity through the
Mhm.
spirit. And um, that's where we can see evidence of God in this world. Uncommon acts of kindness. Lives change. People are different. And I can think of no greater place to witness that than in the church.
Right.
And so my question is, and what I want to pose to people on the chat, how do you know you're in a spirit-filled church?
Mm.
How do you know that people are genuine? How do you know that people are real? Well, let's ask that first one first before we discuss this a little bit more. But number one, the way you know that you're in a spirit-filled church is people seek to discover and encounter Jesus.
Mhm.
They have a deep desire to know Jesus. And something that I think is sometimes overlooked, they have a desire to know truth and to know Jesus, even beyond what they're used to and what tradition has always taught them.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people that Christians that I've run into that um, they say they want truth, they say they want to know, they say they want to grow in their faith, but as soon as they encounter something new, they'll say, "Well, that's not what we've always believed.
They're
That's
not
not
willing
the
to be
way."
changed.
Yeah, that's not the way we've always done it.
Mhm.
Well, if we're growing to know Jesus, chances are things will change,
Mhm.
right? The beliefs will change. We'll know more. We'll experience more. So that's the first one, is that you will seek to discover Jesus. The second one is, if we're seeking to discover Jesus and we have a relationship with God, the Holy Spirit's living in us, we'll follow the Bible and keep God's commandments, right? The Bible says, if Jesus says, if you love me, keep my commandments. The Spirit lives in us and dwells in us and changes us to be like him. And therefore, we just automatically live out God's will and God's commandments. The third one is we love people.
Right.
Jesus says, by all men will know that you are my disciples if you have love for one another. So I think if you were to test whether a church is filled with the Spirit, it would probably be those three things.
Mhm.
My question for you, Ainsley, coming as a teenager, um, how would you know that you're in a spirit-filled church? Or how do you know that people are truly loving or truly giving, or they have God in their hearts and in their lives?
Yeah, so I think as teenagers, one of the biggest turnoffs, I guess you'd say,
Mhm.
for coming into a church is feeling judged and feeling looked upon in a certain way. So I think one of the ways that you can know, like as a teen, is to truly feel accepted and to really be loved, and for people to be really welcoming and accepting and really just genuine and caring and going that extra mile to form those relationships with you and meet you on your level.
How do you know someone's caring? Like, how, if somebody comes to you and or you describe them as caring, what would they do? What would that look like to you?
I mean, really just making an effort to get to know you and get to know what how you work and the things you like and putting forth an effort to make those connections and really just finding something, like say you're interested in something, they can okay, so let me give an example. Say you play a sport, say you play basketball, and they know that and they learned that about you. It may just be coming and be like, "Oh, I heard you had a game the other day. How'd you do?" And like, and just like really putting forth that effort. And
Mhm.
teens see that, and teens, that's really just how a way they can know is just
What if,
putting forth that effort.
what if, let me ask you this question. Even if you don't, if teens don't respond openly and warmly at
Mhm.
first, should people continue to try?
For sure,
Why?
because how do I put it? Teens don't always show their appreciation and their emotions, I guess you'd say, on their face right away. So, they might kind of make notes of, oh, like this person, may seem, but it's gonna take them a while to open up to you and to so you should most definitely continue to keep putting forth that effort because that's gonna reinforce and continue to reinforce
So
that
being
you care.
consistent, being
Being
consistent.
consistent, exactly.
Yeah, we were talking at home a little bit about this, and every Friday night when we were in Minneapolis, we had young adults over to our house.
Mhm.
We made them pizza and things, and um, we had one guy who would sit in the corner, never talk,
Mm.
and we always thought he doesn't want to be here, but he was always there. But he would never talk, and we'd try to engage him, and he'd give like one word answers, and it was always kind of awkward, and we didn't know if we were getting through. Well, come to find out, he actually passed away, and after he passed away, they found a letter that he had written to God, and he was so thankful for his experience with us in our home and his relationship with Jesus and the things that he learned. And one of the ways that we let him know that we cared, because it was hard to engage him verbally, um, we just always had the snacks that he liked.
Right.
The toppings for the pizza that he
Uh-huh.
liked, right? We were consistent, and we
Right.
made sure that he had what he needed. And so I think what I'm hearing from you too is that it's not just asking, it's also being consistent. And people sort of getting outside of their comfort zone. Maybe you're not into sports, but you still ask about the
Yeah,
sports.
you still ask.
And maybe you try to learn a little bit about the sport in
Mhm.
order to be able to engage teens or anyone. Really, these people say, well, what about kids? Why are we always talking about kids and youth ministry? Youth ministry is important. But it's interesting that these same principles apply to adults too.
Mhm.
Adults want kindness. They don't want to feel condemned when they come into a church. They want to be accepted and loved. They want people to care about them and where they come from,
Mhm.
and to be consistent. They want people to be consistent. So, what? Let me ask you this question: what would be a red flag for you, um, about people feeling like somebody's not genuine or somebody's not who they think who they're trying to make themselves out to be?
I mean, some red flags are kind of like, I guess, having an agenda, being hypocritical. We actually we were doing a worship in school before break, and the person who was doing it, the topic was, or one of the things he talked about one day was, people, church members in particular, acting one way in church, like when the cameras are watching you, quote unquote, and then once they're off and once you're home, acting a completely different way.
Mhm.
Or, and just talking about how a person can come to church every day, or not every day, every Saturday, every Sabbath, they can come to church and they can be up front and they can be doing all these things. But then once they're not in church, they're acting a completely different way. And people see that. And
So it comes through, even if you're not
it
at
comes
their
through.
home with them. If you're living kind of two mindsets, one way at home, so when you come to church and you interact with people, that actually shows, is what you're
Mhm.
trying to say, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it shows through.
Yeah,
That's
and so
interesting.
so those are just some like red flags, and like being nice to your face one minute and then like maybe you'll hear a rumor of like, or yeah, like a rumor of someone saying like, oh, like this person, is talking about you behind your back, and that's a church member. That's supposed to be someone you're supposed to be comfortable with and connecting to God with, and
Mhm.
all these different things. And that's definitely a turn off, and that's gonna come back to you and make you think, or as a teen, and just be like, if
So let me ask you this too. Sometimes when adults hear, well, teens or people don't want to be judged,
mm,
they think that means, well, teens don't want to be told what to do or believe there's any right and wrong. They want to do whatever they want and they don't want any correction and they don't care. Is that is that how you would sum that up? Is that how you would describe it? You don't expect to have any standards or rules in the church?
No, it's not really just it's not really rules, it's just like when, I don't know how to put it. It's like when I think you need to it's important to remember that like when a teen walks into a church and they're wearing something that's specific, like as long as it's not to whatever, like they don't want to walk in and feel like the church members are thinking, oh my goodness, like look at that, like we just want to come in and be able to connect to God. that's
Mhm.
that's what we want to do, is and we want to grow in a relationship with him. And it's not that we don't want to have no rules or no boundaries or anything. We don't want to just come into church and be able to run free. We just want to come into church and feel like we're welcome there and feel like um
Have space maybe to make mistakes?
yes, but still know that we're loved through them, and
Mhm.
and further being shown the character of God, and being able to have that relationship with him.
I think it's the same with adults too. I think anytime an adult comes to a church, they expect, well, there's going to be certain standards and expectations here. But how will people treat me if I don't always live up to those expectations? How will I be accepted if I don't look exactly the way that they do, or I'm not in the same place that they are spiritually, right? That's big for people.
Mhm.
And what we all need to realize is that everybody's sort of in a different stage of their growth journey. And if we can't be the problem that I see a lot of churches making, the mistake I see them making is being so afraid of people that are different or differences. It's almost like if someone else is different, it's going to taint me.
Mhm.
So they want to push out all these differences. They want to push out all of these um, people that aren't like them. But if you're mature in your own faith, if you're mature in your own walk with Jesus, people can be different from you and you won't be threatened
Mhm.
because you're solid in what you believe.
Mhm.
And so what you're concerned more is not how the effect people will have on you, but you should be concerned with the effect that you'll have on other people.
Mhm.
And if we take the example of Jesus, Jesus loved people into change.
Mhm.
He accepted people into change. He intervened in their lives by meeting their needs, by gaining their confidence, by ministering to them, and then saying, "Hey, let me show you something." Right? But if people automatically feel like we're there to change them before we show that we care or we love them, that's not welcoming. They
No.
don't feel like part of the family, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has a weird uncle. Everybody has a weird family member, and if you don't can't think of one, it's probably you that's the weird family member. But the fact of the matter is you still love them. They're still part of your family, right? Why can't we do that in our churches? We should do that in
We
our
should.
churches.
Yep.
That's the way we should be in our churches. So, I wanted to share some things here some research that I thought was really interesting. So, this is the four Pew Research did a study, and these are the four most reported reasons why people believe in Jesus but don't attend church. And it was surprising to me because it's not what I would have expected. So these are the four most common reasons why people who say they believe in Jesus but don't attend church. I practice my faith in other ways. We're going to talk about that one in a second. I dislike church or haven't found one.
Mm.
I attend online, or logistical reasons like they work during that time or they can't get childcare or something like that. So I don't you may or may not be able to pick out what I see there. But do you see a problem in those reasons? I see a problem in those reasons.
I mean,
Not that they're not valid, not that they're not real, but I see a problem with the way people are viewing the role of church in their life.
they're kind of treating it like like it's almost like they're making excuses to like for a reason to not go, or treating it like it's an obligation, or like it's some place you go just because you're going to church, like You're not going because you're trying to have a relationship with God. You're going because, oh, I'm going to church, you know?
Yeah, yeah, it's just becomes part of, like,
Yeah,
you
like
go through the motions,
yeah,
right? You go
yeah.
through the motions. Well, I practice my faith in other ways. That's a genuine thing. I get that. People, not everybody experiences God the same way in corporate worship. I get that. But I think if that's how you view church as the only reason you attend church, I think you're missing a big reason.
Mm,
I dislike church. I haven't found one. Okay, so I get the haven't found one yet. You want to feel like you're at home and like you
mhm.
have a family, but I dislike church. Again, that's all about me.
Yeah.
I practice my faith in other ways. That's about me,
Mhm,
right? I attend online. I'm consuming again,
mm,
right? Logistical reasons. Okay, that's part of life. There are issues that arise like that. But I see the issue as a pastor. I see the issue there as almost like people going to the grocery store and picking and choosing which parts of the produce section that they want to be part of their church. And if they don't have those elements, they don't want to be part of church,
mm,
which I think is a problem, because there's a whole nother aspect of being part of a church. And that's the effect that we have on other people and how much we need other people. So we'll talk about that a little bit more as I go along. Anything come to your mind as we were talking there?
Well, I mean, I think you make a good point with the me and the kind of the missing the bigger picture of it all,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of realizing that church is more than just like kind of what you can get out of it, or um as I mentioned before, kind of like an obligation or just going through the motions. It's about having a relationship with God, and it's about building a community
Mm-hmm.
and all these different things, and it can be easy and kind of dangerous and to not see the bigger picture, and kind of like what you were saying.
Yeah, and I wonder if that mindset exists in our culture, because is it because of the church, what the church has done, and the way in which church has been done, so that when people were attending church, they were just thinking, I go there to consume,
Hmm.
right? I go there to watch the worship, to sing the songs, to hear the music, to hear the prayers read, to get the communion, and then I leave. So that it got to the point where they're saying, I can experience God better in other ways, right? So was it the church's problem, or was it people who were going to church? Was it their problem, going only to consume? And only, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know who's at fault for that, but I see that really gets back to the root of it. Why would anybody be part of a church? Why would anybody go to church? What do we view the role of church in our lives?
Hmm.
How do we see that? So here's some more research that I found. Um, this is some statistics. Among those who rarely attend religious services, nearly 4 in 10 say they don't go because they practice their faith in other ways. So 40% of people who don't attend church say they practice their faith in other ways. My question would be, can you truly practice your faith without being part of a church?
That's actually a really good question.
Can you? Because, and I think again, we've lost focus. Churches have lost focus and people have lost focus about what the church is. The word for church is ecclesia, which means the called out ones. So the church is all of us. We are the church. So we have reduced it to, I go to a building. I go and sing songs. I go and I hear scriptures read and I hear a good sermon. I consume it. But the definition of the meaning of the word church is us, we, the called out from the world. It's a people, it's not a building. And so I can see where if the church was projecting itself in that way, it's something, a service that we perform, and people were saying, I go to consume this service, it would lose that entire important aspect of, this is us. We are the body of Christ.
Mhm.
We are an active living organism. It's not just a building with services that happen. It's a living, breathing organism for reasons that we're going to get to here in just a few
So
minutes.
so so you're saying a church isn't necessarily it's a place, it's a people.
Yeah,
And I think
exactly.
I think people I think oftentimes people get so roped up in the tradition and the
Hmm.
and the way it's always been done and
Hmm.
the order of service and the you know
The tradition, and that actually goes back to what we were saying before about feeling judged or condemned or pushed out.
Mhm.
Because what I've seen as a pastor is people will defend what they're comfortable with. I had a church, for example, that was opposed to dressing up.
Yeah.
They had come out of very traditional churches and felt hurt by being judged by those very traditional churches because they didn't fit in that well there. And those traditional churches had judged them and pushed them out because they didn't fit the bill. They didn't fit into what those traditional churches were comfortable with.
Mhm.
So they formed a church that was non-traditional. Great. They're forming a family with mission. Wonderful, right? Well, one day somebody tried to enter their church with a tie on.
Uh-huh. And now they judge
And now
them.
they judge the guy with the
Yeah.
tie. Right? So what we often do, and not that they weren't good people, and that's not what I'm getting at. My point is that we defend things that we call holy that aren't necessarily biblical or holy. We defend what we're comfortable with or what we're used to or what we like.
Mhm.
And that's why making people feel judged or pushed out based on our preferences is so dangerous because we are defending culture. We're defending our preferences. We're not defending something that the Bible upholds.
Mhm.
So we need to be really careful
Mhm.
to not do that
For sure.
because we are about ministering to people. And if there's people in the church that are different from me, great,
Accept it.
accept it.
Mhm.
That means there's more diversity here, which is good. It's a beautiful thing. And there's people in all different phases of their journey that we're going to help grow and they're going to help me grow and I'm going to learn things from them.
They can add to the church and add to the experience
Right?
of it.
Because church isn't something that we defend as a building or a
Or
service.
Mhm.
We should be defending the people because the people are the church.
Uh-huh.
We should be
Yeah.
defending those people who are different. Right? And again, it's not that there aren't standards and expectations in biblical teachings. I don't want us to feel that there aren't. But that's the fact of the matter. So this is interesting. Another reason for people not attending church, a net dislike for the congregation or the religious services. That was almost as big as um, they practice their faith in other ways. So it seems like these same people were saying, I don't attend because I don't like the way things worship happens there. So I'll go worship on my own in the way that I prefer.
Mm.
Right. So,
Yeah.
and I get that. But at the same time, we don't want to be consumerist Christians. We want to be Christians who exist for the health of the body of Christ and not just I like that or I don't like that. Right? Here's another set of statistics here. Among U.S. adults who attend religious services at least once or twice a month, the percentage of who say blank is a very important reason they attend. So to become closer to God, so children will have a moral foundation, to make me a better person, for comfort in times of trouble and sorrow. So again, I'm going to leave that up there so y'all can see that at home. These are all good reasons, right, to attend church. And it may just be that those were the only options on the survey for people to give.
Right.
But where is the response that says, I attend church because I want to help people grow in their faith and I want to share the gospel with people? Isn't
Mhm.
that interesting?
Yeah.
So all those answers were about um they were about what I receive because I go to church.
I get.
What I get. It's not I go to give, I go to serve, I go to love, I go to protect, I go to share the gospel, I go to learn so that I can take the gospel from my church and share Jesus with people. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So to me, if these are the reasons, the only reasons why you go, I don't want to give that one away. We're going to show that one in just a second. But if these are the only reasons why you go, if you become disappointed in some of these areas, you're going to become disappointed with your church and get to feel like I'm not getting out of this what I am expecting.
Mhm.
And you'll become discouraged with it, right?
Mhm.
So then what's the next step?
Leaving church?
Leaving.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's happened with a lot of people. And the sad thing is, and you see this, a lot of the big churches that are growing, some of them, not all of them, have an emphasis on bigger, brighter, flashier, worship experiences and things like that, which to me only compound the problem. We can have bigger, better, flashier worship services, but the heart of it has to be we're the family of God and
Right.
we exist to lift each other up, to praise Jesus and to share the gospel with people, right? What do you think? Have we solved that problem yet? Any other thoughts there?
Hmm. I I just think this is all interesting with the statistics and everything. Just
Yeah, it's really,
very
really
interesting.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yep.
So, Pew Research also came up with this, and I don't want to get political, but Pew Research came up with these statistics. They say those most likely not to attend church are male, younger, highly educated, and democratic people in
It's interesting.
that is interesting. Now, I don't want to get into a lot of the ins and outs of that, but we do know what's happened in higher education in many places,
Mhm.
teaching things that would make people doubt the Bible and would doubt God, right? You're laughing at your watch. It's
I don't
okay.
know. I don't know if it was my watch or what.
I do see in the church, even amongst older adults, there's more women.
Mhm.
Where are the men? Where are the men in their faith journey? Is that because men aren't religious or seeking God? I don't know. Is it because church is more girly? I think it can be in some places. There's a really funny comedian we like, Tim Hawkins,
Yeah.
and how he talks about how worship songs are like, I want to see your face, I want to touch your face. And he's like, I don't want to touch you. I love him, but I don't want to touch his face, So a lot of times the worship services or songs can be kind of gushy and mushy and
Touchy
things,
feely.
touchy feely, even some of the illustrations that we use. But men, we exist, the church exists to serve each other, right? We need men, we need leaders, we need godly men in our society, in our culture. So I just thought that was really interesting. Um, I don't know if this fits with our particular denomination because I know that there's a lot of left-leaning politically people in our church because of our views on religious liberty
Right.
and things like that. Now, not on some of the other issues like abortion and things like that, although there are some. But so I don't know if that exists in our particular church, but I just thought that was really interesting. And then there's some other statistics here I thought that was really interesting. A relationship with God, moral foundation for children, self-improvement, and comfort in tough times are among key reasons people go to religious services. So these are reasons for attending religious services among U.S. adults who say they attend at least once or twice a month. So they say, I go to become closer to God. So my children, we saw these before. So children will have a moral foundation to make me a better person, for comfort in times of trouble and sorrow. I find the sermons valuable, to be part of a community of faith. So there it is finally. To be part of a community of faith is way down the list, 57%. So it's just over half.
Wow.
And then we wonder why people aren't attending church like they used to. To continue families' religious traditions. Oh, that's not a reason. That's not a reason to go at all.
Say it again.
To continue your family's religious traditions.
Oh yeah, no.
That's not a reason to go.
Nope.
I feel a religious obligation, even worse reason to go. You're obligated to go. To meet new people and socialize. Okay, but still, that's a very small number of people. To please my family, spouse, or partner. Okay, that's a real answer. That's a real answer. But again, where is the focus on our need to be part of the church to help people grow in their faith and to be able to learn to take the gospel to help save souls?
And still, like, there, besides that one, pretty much all of the rest of it is what I get and what
Mhm.
I experience and what I instead of what you and what I can and how I can bless you and how we can be growing through God together as a community. And yeah, it's interesting.
So you're a teen, you go to school,
Mhm.
uh, Christian school. Um, I know sometimes there's concerns with the worship service
Yeah,
style and like
for
that,
sure.
but would you say what kind of church would you rather attend? A church that's full of warm, genuine, loving people, or a church that has awesome music, fantastic programs, but you're missing the relational aspect? What is more important to you to be part of a church?
Definitely the one with the warm, genuine, welcoming people. I mean, it can even be a tiny church. It doesn't even have to be a big church. So long as for me, so long as the people are genuine and caring and they care about each other and they care about um serving God and they're just truly genuine people. That's the kind of church I want to be a part of. And that's the kind of church that makes me feel welcome at.
Mhm.
That makes me when I walk in the door, I want to come back and I want to be part of it.
Mhm. I don't mean to brag, but our church here is that kind of church. It's small.
Yes.
Your dad does lousy music, not lousy. I don't think it's bad, but it's not great. It's not terrible. It's okay, right? But the people.
The people,
How do
for
you know
sure.
that you're loved in your church?
They're just I mean, they're just amazing people. Like I you can just tell. I mean, you walk in the door and it's automatic. It's like this warmth of people just I mean, their faces light up when they see me and my siblings and us. And it's just like they're always saying like how like we're like their grandchildren and it's just you can feel the atmosphere and you can feel the love and it's just it makes all the difference
Mhm,
really. Yeah.
mhm. It's interesting as a pastor, I've been part of large churches, and in large churches, there's so much going on that I would spend very little time actually talking to people. Sometimes as a pastor, you can be so busy that you're not really ministering to people because you're so worried about the programming.
Right.
And some large churches are like that. Even their greeters, even their it's very planned out, it's very strategic, it's very programmatic, it's based
Right.
on programs, and there isn't that genuine personal feel. And so when you find a church that is loving like that, it means more than the best programs, because you feel like you're in a place where you have room to fail and you're not going to be judged when you do, and you're going to be welcomed back with open arms
Mhm.
when you get up and dust yourself off, or you can come to the church and bleed and hurt because people love you and they care about you. Man, that means everything. And
It's
if
the
we
world
can be those kinds of Christians, then our churches are going to be full. And not only to go to receive that, go to
to give it.
provide that.
Right.
And then as you learn how to do it in your church, you can take it out into the world with you and be that kind of person out in the world, and think about the impact that we could make
Right.
in that sphere.
Huge.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting that I've seen multiple studies. I've seen studies like this one before, and people predominantly, yes, it's one of the important things that people say about whether they stay church or like a church. But I've seen predominantly the friendliness, the loving, being genuine far outweighs the quality of the worship service and the programs
Mhm.
for why
Right.
people attend church and love their church
Mhm.
or don't love a church. We are so often focused on the programs that we forget about the people.
Right.
And when a church is struggling, automatically, almost always, people say, we need to improve our programming. Well, maybe we need to focus on being loving
Mhm.
to each other and to anybody who comes in. So being more Christ-like. That's what we're talking about, is the resurrection of Jesus makes a difference because he makes us a community of people that love each other, that love the hurting, love the people that are visiting us, love the people that are struggling. So let me get back to some of these things here. So um, we saw that one. So we're nearing the end here, but um, So George is asking, is it true that that church attendance went down after they locked people out of church? Wouldn't that indicate that people were only going out of habit? That's a good question. So yes, church attendance since COVID has not recovered. Um, one of the reasons and we saw this in one of the other surveys, is people got used to going to church online.
Right.
So they liked the idea of viewing church in their pajamas
On their couch,
on their couch,
drinking
getting
coffee.
up, not having to get up as early, making your coffee or your hot chocolate, staying in your pajamas,
Right.
sitting down on the couch or the easy chair and turning on the sermon.
Mhm.
So churches got really good at streaming things,
Mhm.
which is both a huge blessing because now more than ever before, people can have non-confrontational, easy contact with Christianity, with the church, and with your worship services, right? It's really easy to research a church to find out more about them.
Mhm.
But as the quality of streaming has gotten better, um, people got used to not going and they just consume it online if they're going at all. But yeah, I think to your point, George, that some people, once they got out of the habit and they got out of the routine, they never went back,
Right.
which makes you question, why were they going in the first place?
Because it was routine, it was habit, and it was the like
Yeah,
what we were saying earlier with the just the going with the
the
routine and the
tradition, and it's what
tradition.
we've always
Exactly.
done, and that's the weekly grind and the weekly cycle. And I think also there's something to be said about, does church have to be in the morning? Do we have to do it with the order of service that we always have? Does it have to be a certain way? Does it have to look a certain way? If you look at the way we do church, there's elements there, offering and
Yeah.
singing and all those things. Those are in the Bible,
Uh-huh.
but the order in which we do it, the way in which we do it, often is very cultural or very traditional. And so maybe there are other ways to do church that are not what we're used to, but aren't any less biblical.
Mhm.
So, those are questions we have to ask
Yeah.
ourselves, right?
Yep.
So, really interesting though. But yes, church attendance since COVID certainly has taken a hit. I've heard some commentators say that it's rebounding some. I know that we're experiencing a resurgence here. People are discovering the podcast and things, which is wonderful. And we have a loving church, so we're blessed with that. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, some people left and never came back. And I've even had experiences where you go visit those people and they'll say, it's just easier for me to worship online.
Yeah.
And again, we're missing that huge reason for church in the beginning. The Holy Spirit dwells in us, Jesus changes us, we become an active part of the body of Christ. That's essential to being part of a church.
Right.
So it's sad that it's been reduced to something less than that, because
Yes,
the
for sure.
church is the dynamic, changing, loving community that Jesus dwells within. All right, so here's some biblical reasons for the church. Why does the church exist? Again, it's the ecclesia, or the called out ones, the people. Ephesians 1:12 says what, Ainsley?
Live for the praise of his glory.
Right. We glorify God. So we attend church to glorify God.
Right.
It's not what I get, it's what I give to God. Now, some people say I don't sing very well. It doesn't matter. I've always said I'd love to have a whole church of people that can't carry a tune, but they sing with passion and love
With
and
their
joy in
heart.
their heart, right?
Mhm.
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
So number two, what do you see there?
Strengthening each other, Ephesians 4:11 through 16, equipping and building up.
Yep, equipping and building up is what Ephesians 4:11 through 16 says. So the church exists, we're part of the body to equip people for ministry, to each
Mhm.
other for ministry. I have gifts, I train people, other people have gifts, they train me for the building up of the church. Sharing Jesus to the world, that's why the church exists. So we share Christ with the world. Number four, what do you see there?
Giving a proper worldview, 1 Timothy 3:15.
What do you suppose that one means?
Giving a proper outlook that's godlike and Christian-like
Godly and
and
biblical, yeah.
biblical.
because
Yeah.
there's so much confusion out there in the world, and the church exists in order to hopefully keep things on track
Right.
or to give a more godly, better perspective on the world and what's happening, and perspective of hope and peace and joy and truth,
Mhm.
right? Despite what crazy things are happening in the world.
Right.
Fellowship and community with like-minded people. So the church has a good mindset, a truthful mindset, and we go there to strengthen and edify each other to live in the crazy world.
Right.
So it sort of keeps us on track, and hopefully you're in a church that keeps you on track and doesn't get you further off track. If it's getting you further off track, you're in the wrong church. But like-minded people who can strengthen each other. And then number 6,
Demonstrate God's love and justice.
demonstrate God's love and justice. So that's another reason why we're part of a church. And people say, do we need denominations? Do we need organized churches? And I always say, it's a really good question. It's a worthwhile discussion. But what I see is, as we organize, we have a greater ability to have a greater impact,
Right.
right? If we're just a few people over here in a house church that aren't part of something bigger, it's really hard to impact your whole world.
Right.
So if we pool our resources, if we get together, and again, anytime you do that, there's always challenges and issues and corruption that filters in. It's just going to happen. But you pray that the greater good is done through organization, right? And so in that way, it's good and needed. And we pray that the Holy Spirit fills the organization as well. So that's our talk tonight. The question is, what do you think? What do you think about why the church exists? Do you go? Do you not go? Why? Why not? Have we given reasons that you have that we haven't thought of? Why do you not attend church? We'd love to hear from you. I'd love to talk with you about it either privately or answer your question online in our next Q&A. So send in those questions, any Bible questions as well. It might be something totally off this topic that you're wondering about. You're reading a passage, or you heard something from a preacher, or something happened in your life. Send those questions in. We want to hear those. We want to answer those. And of course, we have new episodes of our podcast that come out every Sunday, and you can ask questions based on those as well. We want to let people know that we are giving away free spots to summer camp for kids to go to Camp Cherokee in the Adirondacks. So contact us if you would like your child to go for free to summer camp this summer. Last announcement is this Sunday's episode. We're really excited. We have an interview with Chief Androsco from the Auburn PD. You are going to be shocked, friends, at some of the things that come out of that interview, talking about drug cartels in central New York, talking about his experiences in law enforcement, some of the ways that he's working in the community to make the community a better place. Don't miss that episode. It's really interesting. Share it with your friends. I know they'll be blessed. We had a great time. We just did that interview this morning. We had some technical difficulties. We actually had to do it twice. I'll let in that little secret. We had some technical problems the first time. We couldn't air it because there were so many problems. He came back. He was gracious enough to come back, and he did it again. And we had a great talk this morning. And so that'll be coming out on Sunday. I think you'll find that really, really fascinating. So the last thing is, be sure to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, and Facebook. That helps the podcast grow, and it helps you make sure you know when new content is coming out. Ainsley, thank you for being with me again.
Thank you for having me.
You are a delight to have on the podcast. Thank you for letting me make fun of you. Feel free to make fun of me more when you're on with me. I think people would enjoy that. But no, have a wonderful week, everybody. We hope you're attending church not to consume, but to be a blessing to others, to worship Jesus, and to learn to take the gospel to the world. God bless you all. Have a wonderful week. Auburn, try Jesus.